Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to one of the best times of the year. It's Thanksgiving edition of the Coach Shawn Witten Show. Tonight we're going to talk to Coach Witten about the big victory last week in the quarterfinal game in Greenville against the Green Devils, the #1 team in the state at the time. And we're going to talk a little bit tonight about this big semifinal game against Upperman down around Cookboy, is that correct? Yeah, down around Cookboy. So, Coach Witten, strange question to ask a man who has won the last 2 state championship games, but has there ever been a better game than the victory the Cyclones had last week in Greenville?
It's super exciting, Stacy. Just, a lot of times you just don't get a second chance, and to learn from your mistakes, to see how much we've grown, to see how far we've come as a team in certain positions. For us to go out and play that way, it was fantastic. You visualize it, you prepare for it, you practice it. It takes a lot of time and a lot of weeks to get to that performance. And a lot of the way that we started the season against Science Hill was the way we performed last Friday night. It was superb as far as the effort, the energy. We had a lot of unsung heroes, and we had a lot of willpower. The things that we preach in the summer, the things we preach in the off season, really came to play last Friday night.
Let me ask you, I like these program questions, so I want to ask you these program questions. We talked about it when we went down to Anderson County. 3 years ago, after that Anderson County game, you vowed to change the culture of this program, and you did. And the 19 team and the 20 team, they bought into it. We saw hints of it at Science Hill when we played them at the beginning of this year, but it's taken a little longer for this group to buy in. How satisfying is it for you to see the last 2 weeks at Anderson County again, and then to go down there and just other than people in this building, nobody gave you the chance last Friday night. So how satisfying is it to see them buy into everything you've preached for the last 3 years?
Well, I think it's a credit to our guys, especially when you got some guys that return that understand what it takes, and then you got some guys that lack experience and maturity, and you just keep pressing, you keep developing, you keep working them. You just keep pushing those hard messages. A little bit of zero tolerance, hold them to a high discipline, accountability is at a premium. And you just keep delivering those messages 1 week after another week. And I think we've just done a great job of the last 3 years of just, sticking to who we are. A lot of that is the personnel of our team and the guys we've come back. We just try to keep things in perspective. We try to do a great job in practicing the guys hard. We do a great job through the course of the week of not letting up and keeping our foot on the gas, and just a zero tolerance approach of just the way we go about practice, the way we go about our workout, the way that we just do anything. It's just really great to see. I mean, we've been, for instance, a group, like our skill group, just trying to get other receivers to step up, or maybe our defensive backs to kind of come play. We challenged them the last couple of weeks just not to get bullied in those situations where we've been bullied in the past, and they've really come to play. And it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of work, and so, but moments like last Friday night are very rewarding.
Last Friday night, Tony and I caught grief all week because screaming and excited, and Homer's on the radio, and we won't apologize for that. I don't know of a more intense game that I've ever witnessed, every single play. And as intense and exciting as that was, when you step back and look at the approach, the game itself, although everybody had to perform, was simple, that you put in place, and they executed it perfectly, didn't they?
Well, a lot of times when you put in a game plan, especially offensively, it's about plays, it's about repetition. We've tried to do a great job over the last several weeks of giving an identity of how we're going to attack it. But, Friday was a true, the way it played out is we started it on Monday, the way we attacked. Coach Pierce mentioned it at the end of the game. It wasn't about 10 yards. It wasn't about 20 yards. It was about fighting for 5 yards every time we touched the ball. I've never seen our offensive line grab Cade, grab Bryson, and push them forward. You know, a lot of times you just don't teach stuff like that. It's just a reaction that you got to play with. But I think, you know, just from the receivers catching the ball and getting upfield, you know, just we just executed, you know, 100 degrees different than the first time we played them. I mean, the game plan wasn't any different. It was just all about the way we went and executed it. But, you know, we worked PBU drills for the defensive backs. Nate had 3. You know, all the things you worked the course of the season, you sometimes think that, you know, that you don't see them out there on Friday night. All that stuff came to play. So I'm proud of a lot of people, you know, on our team. But it's very rewarding that the guys that were out there the first time that didn't play really well, you know, they got a second chance. Mason Ball, you know, maybe some Nate Stevens, you know, maybe some Dalton Mitchells, you know, you know, maybe our defensive line just tried to do too much the first game. Our offensive line was just a little bit hesitant. They showed a lot of grit, a lot of toughness. You know, Jacob Whitaker, you know, a week ago didn't even get a lot of snaps against Anderson County. Man, he played lights out and did a great job. So, you know, just credit our guys just to, you know, believing in us, believing in the message. But, you know, we really laid out the plan to these guys early. You know, we knew it had to be a low-scoring game. You know, we had to, you know, keep Gudger and those guys off the field, and you just never would imagine it worked out the way it did.
You know, here we are at our 3rd Thanksgiving Day practice. Sort of getting kind of used to this. It feels kind of nice. Go back to, there's 3 plays that stood out in my mind. The first play was Dalton Mitchell made that huge 3rd down conversion where Bryson kept the ball away, kept the play alive, and threw it right over his shoulder. Dalton grabbed it, drug his feet, and got it in. That kept a drive going, because if not, we would have flipped it over. And I think it come right after the Greenville score. Speak a little bit about the confidence that Bryson is showing in somebody other than Jake. He's getting a little bit more confident, it seems like.
Well, we put in a package for Bryson in Greenville. We went through a lot of different films that we played him over 6 times in 3 years of just things that stood out to us that was able to give us a great advantage of moving the ball. And so we wanted to get Bryson on some play action sprint outs, some plays that looked like run, and then able to work him out of the pocket. So we had 3 plays. It was the same play, different personnel, different ways to look at it. You know, one, we had the backside slot receiver dragging across the field on a play action sprint out. One was we faked a play to Cade, and he went on out to the flats. And so that was just a big play that we worked. You know, whenever you play Greenville, they're tough to throw it, they're tough to run against. But when you pull your lineman, it really simulates the run. And so when they think that we're pulling, they think run, and then it enables Bryson to get on the move. So that was a big play for us, but you know, Dalton come up with a big catch. You know, that was a big-time throw, big-time catch. It was great. It was very rewarding to see those guys. You know, Dalton's been a big-time blocker for us in our scheme as a slot receiver, and it was great to see him come up with a big catch.
And the other one I was going to talk to you about, talk to our viewers, was it was 4th down and 3 on our 35, 40-yard line, 36-yard line. You go empty. You throw a quick screen out to Jake. People will ask me all week long, I can't believe you went for it. I can't believe. Well, my motto was, that showed you how much this game meant to it.
Well, 3rd quarter, we actually used the timeout right there. You know, you don't like to use timeouts in the 3rd quarter because you definitely in a game like that, you want to save them. But we felt like, you know, we've had an empty package all year. We've not used it. We felt like with a running quarterback, the thing with Bryson, you know, we've always had an empty package. We went to it Friday night several times. We got the matchup we liked on the boundary, but we went empty, and we had Cade and Jake into the boundary. And then obviously, you know, we all know what kind of player Cade is to make the block, and then it's good to see us, you know, get that first down. And it's, you know, just especially on our end of the field. But it's just critical for us to keep the ball, to run some more time off the clock. And you know, that was just, you know, when you got the game 7-7, you know, coming out of halftime, you know, we just got to make sure we do a great job of not letting them get the ball back early.
You know, it seemed like to me and Stacy, we talked about it, when you went empty, Greenville looked confused. They looked like they didn't know how to line up. They was trying to flip the 2 linebackers over and back and forth. Is that something that maybe Ryan hollered for you downstairs, say, hey, we need to stay in empty, or is that a gut feeling that you went?
Well, we like I said, we had some empty package. Jake actually caught a third down across the middle on an empty. We felt like the empty and getting Bryson on the perimeter would help us be able to run in. My granddad used to call it pass or keep. You could run it or throw it. And but Jake caught a big third down on an empty, so we stayed in it on the very next play, and we really ran some crossing routes in the empty, and I think that really confused them. On the first time we went empty, they went to a 3-man front. The second time we went empty, they stayed in a 4-man front because I think they were worried about Bryson on a quarterback draw. But we had Jake in the boundary, running a crossing route across the field. But just phenomenal play. It was great pass protection by our offensive line, and Bryson did his thing where he extends the play, finds those guys like he always does.
And final question on the first segment. How huge was that crowd over there Friday night?
Well, I mean, it's just, it's going to be a packed house. Great environment. Burley Stadium's a lot like our stadium. I mean, you're really close to the action. The thing I'm really pleased to see with our fans is when you're that close, you can actually witness the contact, the physicality. You're on the edge of your seat. Just really witnessing how tough it was for us to win, how tough it was for us to just gain yards. When you're close to the action like that, it just puts it in perspective what it takes to kind of win a football game like that.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do us for last week's thrilling recap over the win over Greenville. We'll come back after these messages, and we'll preview tonight's opponent for the right to go to Chattanooga for the 4A state championship. We'll be back after these words. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Coach Shawn Witten Show. Coach, got a very unfamiliar opponent, Upperman, who's been 3A for years and years and years. They moved up to 4A because of the enrollment. In a nutshell, tell us what these fans will be expected to see from this Upperman, especially on the offensive side.
Well, I think there's a lot of similarities in both schools. Both communities are small town, blue collar, scrappy football teams. They got tremendous athleticism. They're long. They got a lot of tall, long, lengthy players. They got a quarterback that's a dual threat, a lot like Bryson, and they got 2 running backs that have almost gained 900 yards apiece. But they're probably 80-20 run to throw. They've played in a lot of good games. They're having a great year, and they're a good football team. They're well coached. They're structured well. They run great schemes, as you can tell. It's a really football team that's a lot of juniors and seniors on the team. They play a lot of guys in both ways in certain spots. I wouldn't say that their offensive line is very, big. I would say they got a lot of length. They got one guy in particular, 6'6", 265. They got another lineman, 6'3", 270. Got tight end H-backs. They're 6'3", 6'4", 240, 245. So they got some length. They definitely can cause some problems. And they've done a great job of pretty much dominating their schedule.
Would it be safe in comparing this team with the Anderson County after Martinez went out, where they went more of the double H-back, pulling the H-backs, pulling the guards, replacing with the H-back style of offense?
Well, it's a lot like a wing T football team, especially in the shotgun. A lot of the pass game is somewhat elementary, sprint out passes, quick game passes. High percentage throws. They don't really put the quarterback in situations where he's got to make a critical third down throw. But they do a really good job of just executing their scheme. They're hard nosed. They're tough. They're resilient. They play a physical style football. In a lot of ways, it's a lot like playing like Anderson County with Wildcat, maybe a Ray County where you see a lot of the power football type plays. So it's just, anytime you get to this point, teams are going to do what they do. They do it really well. They were unstoppable last week against Red Bank, pretty much scored on every possession. So it's going to be another tough physical game, and our guys are going to have to definitely get themselves ready to go.
When you talked about that, as you were talking and watching the film on them, they remind me a lot of like a Daniel Boone sometimes. It's just we're going to line up and try to do what we do. The scheme doesn't look like Boone, but the mentality is the same. We want to control the line of scrimmage and keep a low-scoring game, much like you did last week. What do you have to do to prevent that?
Well, I think a lot of what they do hopefully plays in our hands. The style of football teams that we play, we face a lot of teams that really run the football, no greater than obviously Gudger, but they're spreading the more spread.
Mm-hmm.
Anderson County more tight in there. But we faced some really good teams that run the ball, and the strength of our football team from day one has been our defensive line. But the consistency with our linebacker play, has really emerged. Of just the Eli Williams, Blake, and Mason Ball have done a fantastic job. And I believe, I think the matchup plays in our hands, Stacy. I think the problem becomes, you worry a lot with the ball bouncing and getting to the edge. It's just, getting everybody in the box, and then the ball bouncing and it become a foot race to the corner. So tonight, I believe our secondary really comes into play. Guys like Cade, Dalton, Jake, Nate have got to do a great job of tackling on the back end. So I feel confident in our ability to stop and make the plays. A little bit of quarterback runs can keep you off balance at times, but they are good at what they do. They do it really efficient and really well. And you got to believe that one of their main purposes, one of their main goals is to keep number 10 off the field. So they're going to do a great job of trying to get first downs, sustain first downs, keep it a low-scoring game, and minimize our possessions, especially in the first half.
We talked last week about the difference between the first Greenville game and last week was 3 completely new linebackers in there last week. And we sit up there and watch Mason Ball try to learn how to play middle linebacker in the second game of the season against that Greenville offense. We saw him in a more natural position for him, and he played lights out Friday night. That's an edge stopper. Blake, we know what Blake can do. We know what Eli Williams can do, but these last 2 games, Mason Ball's really come into his own. Do you think that'll play in tonight?
I do. We've done a great job with him of being an outside backer. At times he goes with Coach Harrison and works framing the tight ends and H-backs and gets on the line of scrimmage play. Just his size alone and his strength, you just can't knock people off the ball like that. But it allows us to be versatile because we can play some 4-man fronts. We slide him up. It looks a little bit more like a 50 front. Then we can move K down as a rock down safety, so now it looks like a 53 front. So we just got the ability to do a great job. One of the guys too on top of that's Grayson Hatfield played an unbelievable game Friday. He made a lot of plays. Grayson's been injury after injury, but it was very rewarding to see him also. But we know about Trenton, we know about Brad, we know about Caleb Johnson, we know about Blake. We've seen what Eli's been able to do, but 2 guys especially right there just want to brag on is Mason Ball and Grayson Hatfield. But Mason Ball especially, the struggles he had early on to come back and getting that chance to redeem himself, that was pretty tough. But when you got to stop Gudger and you're halfway in between of stopping Gillespie, I mean, you're kind of in a no man's place.
Sir.
If you take 2 steps towards Gudger, they're going to beat you outside. You take 2 steps towards Gillespie, Gudger's going to beat you. So that's about as tough as position. With even my brother Jason realized that 82, the first thing he pointed out is that's a tough spot to be in a game like that.
So he might have placed one time the whole ball game.
Right.
One time the whole ball game. Let's flip it to the other side real quick. I see a lot of 3-man fronts from this Upperman team. What do you do to counter that when you're light on the front, heavy in the back?
Well, I think we got to do a great job of using our tight ends and H-backs this week. We really struggled in a game like last week to get Mason, Brad, Trenton, some guys over there. It just becomes really tough. How much can you pull them away from the D because we got to get the stops? I really thought our offensive line did a great job. There was times we got Trenton in there to really keep us an extra offensive lineman. But I really think you're going to see us have to use our tight ends and H-backs today, just because they're very good at the defensive ends positions. They're really good at the Mike linebacker position. We've got to do a great job of just getting off to a great start, running the football, easy throws, high percentages throws, and getting into the game with what we do really good. Over the years, we've been really good at throwing a lot of wide receiver quick screens. We've been good at loading people up. So you're going to see tonight from us is, one, we've got to do a great job of utilizing all of our people. Two, we got to mix up and switch the formations so that three-man front can't shift and slide and angle towards one place. So running the ball to the strength, running the ball to the weak side of the field, even running the ball into the short side of the field at times to keep them honest so they don't get we're running to the tight end all the time. We're running to the H-backs all the time. So tonight you're going to see us probably play our best chess match game of using our personnel, run a lot of the same plays, just trying to get to it a different way.
All right, last question. Everybody said last week was the state championship game. If it was, we would be at a parade. It's not. How do you get this team? And I'm telling you, I've been around this program a long time. I don't know of a bigger victory, including the state championships than last week. How do you come back then 7 short days later to say, look, we've got one more to do to punch the ticket to go to the big dance? How have you approached that this week?
Well, a lot of people have even patted ourselves on the back or coaching staff on the back because we did a great job last week. But the work that we've got to do this week is even more valuable. And it really started from the first time we saw them on Monday. It's just preaching the message of the situation's flipped. And you get to this point, they're going to play. We drove halfway across the state last year. And I drive to Memphis tonight to play in the semifinal game. And so we've just spent a lot of time. That's been the message. That's been a lot of the talk of just getting them to understand that, we're going to get a lot of pats on the back, but we've got to perform. We have to have the same performance the next 2 weeks in order to walk away with the gold ball. So it's extremely tough. We realize too that the big wins we've had in the regular season against Greenville, we've come up short against Sullivan South the last 2 years. It was just allowing those teams to hang around. Came very close to getting beat in both of those games. So I think that, and then also I think we've got to do a great job offensively, defensively within our schemes to limit them from even sustaining any type of momentum. I think momentum is a big word for this football game tonight. We can't allow that to shift in any way. We've got to take control of the momentum right from the opening kickoff. So it's been a lot of trying to get our leaders to also give some messages. It's also been important for like TJ and our captains and Trenton to get in front of the team and address the team this week of just being focused and making sure we prepare the same way. And even the assistant coaches of, addressing different groups that we need everybody to make sure that we got an intense preparation. One of the great things about this week also is being out of school on Wednesday and Thursday. It's probably helped a lot of that. Just by being out of school, not being around our classmates, not being around teachers telling us, a little bit of closed practices, closed by ourselves, has really helped us this week.
Coach, we pat the players on the back, but Tony and I would say that was probably you and the assistant coaches. That's the finest coaching job we've seen in a long time at this school. And there's not a person in this building believes you didn't see Upperman until Monday. I'd say you saw him Friday on the drive back. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for the special edition, the Thanksgiving edition of the Coach Shawn Witten Show. What that means is that we're in another semifinal game. Cyclones face Upperman tonight. All important here at Elizabethton High School at Citizens Bank Stadium for the chance to play again for the TSSAA Class 4A State Championship game. Join us after these words from our sponsors as Tony and I will preview tonight's game, and at 7 o'clock sharp we kick off as the Cyclones continue their journey back to Chattanooga and the championship. We'll be back after these words from our sponsors.
Here's Stacy, I'm tired of talking.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our halftime edition of your WBEJ 1240 AM 107.9 FM coverage of Elizabethton Cyclone football. A special guest tonight as we have the superintendent of Elizabethton City School System, Richard VanHuss, with us. Coach VanHuss, thank you very much for joining us first. And
appreciate the invite.
Let's talk a little bit about we're in the middle of this game right now, a semifinal game for the chance to go to Chattanooga this year to play for the championship. But, talk of the town is that last week in Greenville. I told Coach Witten during our show pregame, I don't think I've ever seen a better victory for the Cyclones Talking to a man that has won 2 state championships, I don't think there's ever been a bigger victory for the Cyclones than last week.
Well, he echoed exactly what you said, post game. I mean, just everything to build up to that game. And like you said, it's hard to believe we would say that for a team that went 30-0 last year, lost 1 game in 3 seasons, to say that about that particular game. But just everything came together for the Cyclones that night. And the Cyclones were the reason that happened. I mean, they had a great game plan and came out and focused on that game plan, and they just out-executed Greenville all the way around. It was a great night.
Let's talk a little bit about your position there. How does it make you feel to know that, every superintendent thinks their school system's the best, and you look at a lot of things, and, sometimes it's hard to get the public excited, when you say, hey, we're #1 in math in the state of Tennessee, and you should, and that's very important. Strong academic tradition at Elizabethton, but what kind of value is it to have a 2-time state championship team and one now that's got a good chance to repeat? Sure. What kind of stage does that set for you as a superintendent?
Absolutely. So I've always said that athletics, that's the front porch of the school system. They're going to see more people are going to see your school system represented by student athletes in ball games than any other time. We have an audience out here, 3,000 to 4,000 every Friday night, and we can't get that in any other venue. So athletics are very important. They're very important because they're able to teach things on the field of play that's hard to do in a classroom. We're very, very proud of our academics, and that's first and foremost. We want to put out students that are ready to enter the workforce, go on to post-secondary, whatever their decision may be. But athletics play a strong part in that. You talk about the well-rounded student, and athletics, extracurriculars play a big part in that, whether it's the band. Again, any athletic team that you want to pick, maybe it's an aviation club that you're a part of or whatever. So we spend a lot of time and effort in trying to find something that every student that walks through these halls can plug into and find where they belong. Whether it's, again, aviation, maybe it's the new Naval Cadet program that Coach Presnell started that we're very, very proud of. So we continue to try to build those avenues and those options for students.
Speaking of that, to piggyback on that, I talked to Coach Hurley. Eastside become a 5-star. I mean, that is, he's pounding his chest, in which he should be.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's phenomenal for an elementary school to be recognized.
Yeah. So when you talk about growth, they received 5s, which is the highest mark across the board. So typically 1 year's growth would earn you a 3. And so they had 5s across the board in the middle of a pandemic. So that's just tremendous, and it just speaks to the people that we have. Everywhere I go, when people talk to me about Elizabethton, I say what sets us apart: our people, our teachers, our staff, as well as our students. And the sense of community that we have here is just unbelievable. I joke all the time. I think if we had a tic-tac-toe team, we'd have people that would show up to support it, because that's just the way Elizabethton is. They love the students. They love what goes on here. The sense of community is unlike anywhere else, period.
And I remember a couple of weeks ago, Mr. Valentine had a kickoff to the band for them going to state championship. Probably neighborhood of 1,500 people out here on a Thursday night just to see an 8-minute band performance. That is what you're alluding to with the pride that this community has, and it starts with when they're 4 and 5-year-olds.
Yeah, it sure does. I mean, I think about the programming or broadcasting, youth league football. I mean, who broadcasts youth league football? I mean, who does that? But why does he do it? Because there's an audience for that. People want to see it. So that's just one avenue where people just get excited about anything that's orange and black. But yeah, that was a surreal night, the band performance. I was in the press box and I just looked out, and I don't know what popped in my mind. I said, I wonder what those cars driving down Elk Avenue looked over and thought when they saw those stands full. I know they thought, well, there's a football game going on, but on a Thursday night. So again, just speaks volumes for, again, just the community and the way it supports everything that goes on here.
And final question I've got before I turn it back to Stacy. We've been doing this little halftime segment for going on, this is our 3rd year, and it's entitled, What Does It Mean to Be a Cyclone? You walked up and down these halls, you coached on the football field, you coached on the basketball field, you got 2 of your kids walking these halls. Tell us and tell our listeners, what does it mean to Richard VanHuss, not Coach VanHuss, but Richard VanHuss, the citizen, to be an Elizabethton Cyclone?
Yeah. So it is special. I've been able to be a part of 7 different semifinal appearances, 3 back in the 90s when, you know, I really think they set the stage for the success that we're seeing now. And you know this, Stacy, being from Elizabethton, we've always been the underdog. You know, everyone was bigger than us. We had to fight uphill for everything that we earned, and just that blue collar sense that this community has built, and our school system's taken on that identity, and our athletic programs have taken on that identity. So, again, just you know, there's so much pride in everything we do here because we do it the right way, and we do it with hard work. So that's what, to me, being a Cyclone's all about. And I think that's why people, even after they've graduated, they're still gravitating back to Elizabethton and what goes on here. And I think you guys know we're starting an alumni association as well, and so we're really ramping that up. There'll be a lot of information about that at the ball game Friday, but we've had some tremendous people that have, again, walked these halls that are doing unbelievable things all over the world, and we want our current students to be able to tap into that. And you know, other places have alumni associations, but I just know this is going to be huge. The response already has just been tremendous, and so again, it's such a prideful place because of the way we do things and the hard work. So that's what it means to me.
Tony took my question. I was going to ask you what it means to be a Cyclone, and I'll just echo what you said.
Yeah.
Mr. VanHuss, thank you very much for everything you do for the school system. Thank you for joining us tonight, and I can't think of a better way to cap the Thanksgiving edition of WBEJ's coverage of Elizabethton High School football than to have the head man here with us tonight to talk about what it means to be a Cyclone, where not only the program's at, but also the school system. We'll be back after these words from our sponsor as Tony and I bring you the second half of the semifinal game as the Cyclones continue their track to Chattanooga for the 4A state championship game.